And he has this Politics People podcast. Let's go over to James now. He's in the studio with me now. James.
So
we talked about Rittenhouse, and can we move it on to Joe Biden now? Because Joe Biden has been told off because he called him a white supremacist. So can you fill us in on the details? What's the details?
Absolutely. So I was just going to fill in a couple of the missing parts just over there, but to spin straight to Joe Biden, the Republicans are demanding an apology from the President Joe Biden. Why? Because for some reason, and you have to remember that this trial went on for 3 weeks, and the judge thanked the jury for coming in on time and for listening to everything which took place and accepted that verdict, which he was not guilty. I wasn't listening to everything. Apparently, Joe Biden was, because he said he disagreed with the verdict, which is unheard of. I know you don't particularly like Joe Biden. I'm staying on the fence. But for an American president to allow a jury case to take place and then say afterwards you disagree with the verdict of the 12-man jury or the 12-people jury is unheard of. Can you imagine if it was Donald Trump who was accusing somebody of let's say it was a white supremacist, because that's also what Joe Biden had said, that this man had associations with a white supremacy, but there was no evidence for that whatsoever. Can you imagine Donald Trump saying he wasn't a white supremacist? That would be international news, and yet we haven't really heard about it over here, which is disappointing. So he does need to apologise. Will he? I doubt it very much.
No, right, let's move on to Poland.
Some migrants on the Belarus-Polish border have realised they've been used and abused by the Belarus president, Alexander Lukashenko. Not a very nice man. The EU have put sanctions against that. As a result, he hit back. He flew in thousands from Africa, from the Middle East, to put them in Minsk cars taken off to the border. Thousands were trying to break down the barriers. Briefly, the Polish are saying this is the last border, because there are no borders pretty much inside of Europe. This is the last border before you get inside of Europe. Poland is saying to the rest of the EU, help us out over here. They're throwing firebombs at us. They're bombing us over here. They're tearing down this wall, this fence. And yet we are protecting you, the EU, because once they get through there, they're into Germany, then they could actually cross over into Belgium, France, and if they wish, to come across to the UK. And of course, the UK does have problem at the moment. We've been talking about it for some time. So that is the issue. Some of them are going back. It is freezing, freezing cold right now, but still, the EU has seen that this man, Lukashenko, is not very well liked, and that he used these people on the border, and of course they've realised that they've just been dumped.
Never find story. Hamas and
Hezbollah, Hezbollah yesterday condemned the decision by the British government for outlawing Palestinian Hamas. Palestinian Hamas, for those who don't know, is exactly like any other radical Islamic group. Boko Haram and Al-Shabaab, Al-Nusra Front, Ansar al-Islam, ISIS. There are so many of them. There are so many of them that are around. Just let me remind you who Palestinian Hamas is. They are a group who took over violently of the Gaza Strip. They won the election in 2005. 2006, they took it over violently. They took leaders of their opposition, Fatah. They tied their hands behind their backs. They took them up to high buildings, pushed them off the buildings. So it wasn't pretty nice what Palestinian Hamas did. They sent hundreds and hundreds of young girls, young boys, suicide bombers into Israel. Just today, an attack in Jerusalem, in the old city of Jerusalem, where a man associated with Hamas shot, opened fire, killed 1, injured another 3 as well. So it is the right decision for the British government to outlaw Hamas in this country, and anyone who associates themselves with Hamas and pays funds for Hamas.
Wow, so that's what's been going on in the world. Thank you very much, James. A pleasure, as ever. That's James Marlow. He's an expert, foreign affairs expert. Right, you're watching me, Nana Akwit, on GB News. More to come in the next.